Hello and welcome to the Canada News with your host Divya. Now let's take a look on the headlines. Brampton South MP Sonia Sidhu said that most of the adults in the Peel region have been vaccinated. Ontario's Minister for Long-Term Care claims to improve management, who also made several announcements for it. Leader of the opposition Andrea Harwood once again raises the issue of long-term care homes. Now news in detail. Brampton South MP Sonia Sidhu said that most of the adults in the Peel region have been vaccinated, but all these vaccinations have came to India from other countries. She also questioned what steps the federal government was taking to produce the vaccine. The minister responded by saying that the government had invested $200 million in Mississauga to develop vaccine domestically.
Mr. Speaker, after a difficult pandemic, almost 70% of adults in Peel have received their first dose. However, these vaccines are not made in Canada, and Canadians want a reliable domestic supply of vaccines, so we are not dependent on foreign manufacturing. Can the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry tell this House how our government is working to strengthen domestic vaccine manufacturing in order to improve our security and make us more resilient and independent for any future pandemic?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague from Brampton South for a question and all our leadership on this very important file. Last week, you'll be interested to learn that I was pleased to announce an historic $200 million investment in Mississauga's Resilience Biotechnologies to help increase manufacturing capacity for a range of vaccines, including those that use the mRNA technologies. This, Mr. Speaker, is yet another important step to support Canadian leadership in this vital sector and will help grow our life sciences ecosystem as an engine of our economic recovery.
Prime Minister and the Minister of Natural Resources announced the launch of the Canada Greener Homes Grant to enable Canadians to retrofit their homes for a low-carbon future. From the beginning, our Liberal government has said that economic growth and the fight against climate change must go hand in hand. And this announcement brings this policy into the homes of every Canadian. Can the Minister of Natural Resources inform the House how this program will benefit both our economy and the environment? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank my honourable colleague from Surrey Centre for his question. Canadians want to save money, and we are giving Canadians up to $5,000 to make their homes more energy efficient. It lowers their energy bills. It also lowers greenhouse gas emissions, so climate action can start at home. Retrofitting homes also creates jobs for energy advisors, for local trades workers, for manufacturers of energy efficient windows and doors and solar panels and heat pumps. The Canada Greener Homes Grant is good for Canadians' wallets, good for our economy, good for our planet. Canadians will lead the way by taking part in net zero solutions right from the comfort of their own homes.
Ontario's Minister for Long-Term Care claims to improve management, who also made several announcements for it. She said that at present 60% long-term care homes are providing air conditioning and efforts are underway to bring this figure to 100%.
On improving cooling in long-term care homes. There has been a lot of speculation about this topic, and I'm pleased to say that residents and staff in long-term care will be comfortable and cool this summer. Our government's top priority throughout this pandemic has been the health and safety of Ontarians. This is especially true when it comes to vulnerable populations like our loved ones living in long-term care. And as all Ontarians know, we can have hot summers in Ontario. Without a proper air conditioning system, the summer heat can become uncomfortable very quickly. For a long-term care home without proper air conditioning, the summer heat is not only uncomfortable, but it is a health risk. That's why in April of this year, we updated regulations under the Long-Term Care Homes Act to require that all designated cooling areas in Ontario's long-term care homes have air conditioning by May 15, 2021. To be clear, this is the first time that air conditioning has been mandated in Ontario's long-term care homes. Ontario has invested over $105 million to help homes not only meet the new regulations and provide air conditioning in designated areas, but to exceed the new rules, and where possible, provide cooling throughout the building, including in resident rooms. The new regulations came into effect May 15th, and I'm happy to announce that all 626 long-term care homes, all 626 homes have informed us that they are in compliance. Last year, nearly 13%, or 79 long-term care homes, had no air conditioning at all. This summer, the residents of those 79 homes will be able to keep cool during hot summer months. This is a major achievement and a huge improvement for the sector. Not only have we made strides in ensuring that all homes have air conditioning in designated cooling areas, but the number of homes that are fully air conditioned, including resident rooms, has also increased substantially. Last year, only 42% of homes provided air conditioning throughout the home. Today, that number is up to 60% and growing.
Leader of the opposition Andrea Harwood once again raises the issue of long-term care homes. He said that the Liberal government had not paid attention to the issue and now the Conservative government is following suit. He also said that the air conditioning is not a big deal, but it is also being made bigger and the arrangements are not still good.
I watched the Minister of Long-Term Care's press conference this morning, and I have to say that family members know very well that many seniors in long-term care will still be stuck in sweltering rooms fading away over the summer. We've known for decades that there is a problem in long-term care, and it was a cruel problem that the Liberals ignored and the Conservatives, of course, didn't do anything about until this latest announcement. But I have to say, and I think we all know it, air conditioning is not rocket science. It's not something that's difficult to achieve, but it is shocking to have watched this past year as for-profit long-term care homes were increasing the bonuses of CEOs and shoving dividends out to shareholders while not adjusting the air conditioning issue or not dealing with the air conditioning issue in the long-term care homes. It really shows where those for-profit companies' priorities are, not in making sure that residents are comfortable and family members can be secure in knowing that their loved ones are not sweltering away in the summers. Instead, that money went to CEOs and went to shareholders, and that's just not acceptable. We all know that the Long-Term Care Act already required cooling in common areas, and we know that last summer Ford agreed that that wasn't good enough, and I can say that I firmly believe it's still not good enough. Well, it's very, very troubling that for years and years, the Long-Term Care Act has required cooling in common spaces. And we know for years and years, these private companies have been bonusing their CEOs. They've been sending all kinds of dividends to shareholders, but they haven't been using public money to ensure that the regulations that have been in place for years were being followed. And I think it's important to note as well that you can update the regulations all you want, but if on the other hand you're canceling inspections, which is what this government did and the government prior did, you're not going to have those regulations followed regardless. So I think this is just a big smoke and mirrors effort by the government to pretend that they're actually doing something to deal with the horrific conditions in a lot of our long-term care homes that have been, unfortunately, the case for decades now.
Dr. David Williams, Ontario's Chief Medical Officer, provided information on coronavirus outbreaks in the province. Giving information about the weekly update, he said the cases of the coronavirus have been made on the rise since last week. He said that while thousands of the cases were coming to light in a single day, the weekly average was 1,441 per day. He said the figure was lowest since March.
Since our last update on Tuesday, we continue to see encouraging trends. Yesterday, Wednesday, Ontario reported 1,095 daily new cases, and today we're reporting 1,135. Again, staying around that 1,100 mark for the last few days, in spite of even increased volumes, and the trend usually to have higher numbers today and tomorrow. Ontario's current 7-day average for daily COVID-19 cases is 1,441. This is the lowest we have seen since mid-March. Variants of concern. With respect to variants of concern, the B117, the so-called UK variant, is still the dominant variant in Ontario. But we're continually watching closely for other variants and having consultations with Public Health Ontario and with our medical microbiology team at Public Health Ontario laboratories. This includes especially watching the so-called B.1.617 variant, first identified in India, and its sublineages, about 3 of them. As of today, we are noting that we've identified a total of 322 of the B.1.617 variants that have been identified by Public Health Ontario, 167, and the National Microbiological Laboratory, 155. The majority of these have related to travel cases, and follow-up investigations are underway to determine the origin where these cases had arisen from and to identify if others had not been immediately related to travel. So we continue to look for, continue to identify, and through whole gene sequencing to demarcate which one of the B.1.617 variants it is. Sad today, we're also reporting an additional 42 deaths since Tuesday's update. 23 of those deaths were yesterday, and 19 of those deaths today. Again, we extend our sympathies to the family and friends of those and the caregivers who passed away from COVID-19 and are grieving the loss of a loved one at this time. And we're seeing more in the younger age groups as well, and that is as concerning as the other ones. All are losses and all are important.
British Columbia Medical Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry shed light on the latest coronavirus outbreaks in British Columbia. He said 378 new corona cases were reported in BC today. With this, the total number of cases in BC has reached 1,43,264. He also confirmed that the total number of active patients in BC is 3,542.
To start with today, we've had 378 new cases of COVID-19 diagnosed in British Columbia, bringing the total number of people with COVID-19 to 143,264. Of the new cases, 98 were people who lived in the Vancouver Coastal Health Region, 189 are people in the Fraser Health Region, 9 were people who live in the Vancouver Island Health Region, 68 people in Interior Health, and 14 people in Northern Health. We currently have 3,543 active cases across British Columbia, 286 of whom are hospitalized, 88 in critical care or ICU. And 137,929 people are recovered from their acute illness. Sadly, today we've had an additional 7 people who have died from COVID-19 in the province, bringing that total to 1,690 people. Of the 7 who passed away in the last few days, 1 was a person in their 60s, 3 were in their 70s, and 3 were people who are seniors and elders over the age of 80. As always, through this very difficult time, our condolences go to those who have lost loved ones, to their families, to their caregivers, and to their whole communities. We mourn their loss. We have no new outbreaks to report and have now 4 active outbreaks in long-term care assisted living or independent living and 2 in acute care. Earlier this week, the details of our BC Restart Plan were shared with everybody, and I just wanted to provide an update today around faith services. As many people know, we've been having ongoing meetings with faith leaders and have updated the PHO order and a variance that we had been planning to have in place for a trial period of indoor faith services prior to our circuit breaker being required in March. As this has now been updated, thanks to the work of the group that we have been working with, and the updated variance has been posted today, and guidelines about how indoor faith services can be started today.
The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, announced a virtual press conference the launch of a $2.26 billion Greener Homes grant program to help Canadians rebuild their homes. He said that the grant program will help Canadians cope up with the climate change because new homes will also save energy.
Talk about what we're doing to make life better and more affordable for Canadians. Let me also give a big shout out to Member of Parliament Goody Hutchins and everyone from our Liberal team, Yvonne, Insurance, who are here with us today. Thanks for all the work you do for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador and for Canadians. Anyone who owns a house can tell you that no two homes are the same. That's especially true in a country like ours where the weather is very different, not just from one coast to another, but also from one season to the next. There are communities in Canada where the temperature goes from minus 30 degrees to plus 30 degrees in 6 months. That's why it's so important to understand how our homes use energy and how we can make them as energy efficient as possible. As a homeowner, you don't want to have to pay extra money on energy bills because of a leaky window when you could save that money for school supplies or groceries. And as a country, every effort counts to keep our air clean and our environment healthy. We know that these retrofits can sometimes be out of reach, so our government is now making them more affordable for Canadians. Today, we're launching the new $2.6 billion Canada Greener Homes Grant, an investment that will help 700,000 homeowners make their house more comfortable and their bills lower. For Mike and Jessica, who are here with us today from Pasadena in Newfoundland and Labrador, this grant could allow them to get a heat pump and a new energy-efficient door. And that's going to help their family save money. In a few moments, they'll tell us what saving extra money will mean for them. Grâce à la nouvelle subvention pour des maisons plus vertes, des centaines de milliers de propriétaires de maisons partout au Canada pourront recevoir jusqu'à 5 000 $ pour améliorer l'efficacité énergétique de leur chez-soi. Une fenêtre qui laisse passer de l'air ou un grenier mal isolé, ça vous fait pas juste perdre de l'énergie, ça vous fait perdre de l'argent aussi. Si vous êtes propriétaire, cette nouvelle subvention va vous aider à garder votre chaleur à l'intérieur pendant l'hiver et votre argent dans vos poches tout au long de l'année. Not only can you save money with this grant, you can also help make a real difference in the fight against climate change. By working together to lower our emissions, we will reach net zero by 2050. The Greener Homes Grant means less pollution, lower energy bills, and more good middle-class jobs.
General Krista Brady, head of the vaccine rollout of Canada, said that the vaccine distribution team would distribute 6 million doses sent by Pfizer this week. Last week, Moderna sent 1 million doses to Canada. He also said these doses are being distributed. More than 7 million doses had also been distributed to Canada this week.
More than 26 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines across Canada. More than 5.1 million last week alone. This week, the team at the National Operations Centre coordinated the distribution of the remaining 600,000 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech from this week's allocation. Moderna shipped us an additional 100,000 doses with last week's shipment, doses that are currently being distributed, bringing this week's total to more than 700,000 doses. Looking ahead, we expect weekly shipments of 2.4 million Pfizer-BioNTech doses per week in June and close to 2.3 million doses weekly in July. Moderna has confirmed deliveries the next shipment, which include 500,000 doses expected to arrive next week in 2 parts. The initial shipment is expected to arrive in the country early next week, while the second shipment is expected to arrive over the weekend, next weekend, with distribution occurring the following week. The next confirmed shipment for 1.5 million doses is set to arrive in country mid-June. We expect Moderna to continue to ramp up its deliveries in the second part of June, with millions of additional doses to be delivered. In addition to Pfizer-BioNTech shipments, Canada is set to receive close to 3 million doses next week. We are continuing to work with stakeholders to ensure a sufficient supply of AstraZeneca for second doses. We continue regular discussions with the provinces and territories, with a particular focus in the coming weeks on ensuring that capacity to administer vaccines is aligned with vaccine availability. With the confirmed shipments of Pfizer-BioNTech and positive indicators from Moderna this week, We are well on our way to distributing more than 40 million doses by the end of the second quarter. Across the vaccine rollout enterprise, at all levels and in all departments and jurisdictions, people are working relentlessly to ensure that Canadians can be vaccinated safely and as soon as possible.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh rapidly talks of the scrapping for profit long-term care centres once again. Jagmeet expressed his views on closing down for profit long-term care centres in Canada. They discussed it during a virtual conference which was also attended by NDP MP Heather McPherson.
When we look at this pandemic and we know how much it's impacted so many Canadians, how much it's hurt families, people have lost their jobs, small businesses have been forced to shut down, and people have lost their life. As Heather was saying, what is a national shame is how seniors, particularly those in long-term care, bore the brunt of this pandemic. That is a national shame. And what we'll hear from today is that this was avoidable. The problems in long-term care have been there for a long time. They are long-standing, existing problems that were exposed by the pandemic, and we can fix them. But the key problem that we've identified, that experts have identified, is that when profit is the motive, it means seniors do not get the quality care they need. So we are calling again to remove profit from long-term care. We don't want the crisis in long-term care to be ignored just because we are doing better with vaccination. And at the end of this pandemic, if we haven't used the momentum we have now to fix once and for all the crisis in long-term care and ensure that our loved ones, the ones who are most vulnerable, are cared for with respect and dignity, then we have failed. We need to fix the problem. So again, we are calling for a removal of all profit from long-term care. There should be no profit in healthcare, period. But certainly when it comes to the treatment of vulnerable seniors, they should come first. Their care should come first. It shouldn't be about the bottom line. It shouldn't be about profit. It should be about their care. And with that, I want to introduce two speakers that will be speaking today, June St. Louis and Rebecca Graff-McRae. Rebecca is going to share some of her findings from as a member of Parkland Institute. She's going to share her findings in terms of what we've learned from long-term care. And one of the key findings is more staffing, national standards around making sure we've got great levels of staffing can directly improve conditions of care and will directly save lives.
Premier Doug Ford has written an open letter to educators, scientists, doctors and union asking 7 questions. Primarily, Ford has asked when schools can be opened safely for in-person learning. In the letter, Ford said no one could worry more about opening school safety. Ford said his government wants to get children back to school as soon as possible, but only if there is a consensus based on scientific advice and future risks to students and staff. The Premier also wrote that there has been a lot of talk over the past few weeks about reopening schools in Ontario. Thousands of Indian students enrolled in Canadian universities have been stuck in India since Canada suspended the flights from India in late April. Some of the students were able to go, but many have been stuck here due to unavailability of flights and the visa delays. Students found it difficult to pay 2,000 Canadian dollars for a mandatory hostel quarantine upon arrival. With halted flights, it seems students will be unable to return till the end of June. Many were supposed to get there for summer courses. Students say universities even continue to charge the fee for unoccupied hostels apart from the course fee. They are struggling to manage the normal academic fees, leave alone the hostel fee. So that's all we have in this bulletin. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more updated news.